Welcome and aloha. I'm Mark Shklov, the host of ThinkTech Hawaii's Law Across the Sea program. Today, as we approach Hawaii's primary election on August 8th, we're doing a special program, talking with Jesus Arriola, Democratic candidate for Hawaii State Senate District 10. During this COVID-19 pandemic, it's hard to get to know Hawaii's legislative candidates really at all, personally or professionally. So I invited Jesus to tell us who he is. Let's meet Jesus. Jesus, welcome. Good to see you. Who is Jesus?
Thank you, Mark, for having me. And I really want to send a thank you to ThinkTech Hawaii for making this possible. And yes, I'm very excited to be able to introduce myself and to the community, to my friends, to my neighbors. You know, I want to share that Jesus Arriola, I'm a real person. You know, I have no hidden agenda, no malice. I'm hardworking. I empathize with people. I served in my community. And I feel that this is a time for community members to step up and to step into these roles to be able to help others. And I'm really excited to be able to say that I'm a candidate and to be able to share with others how they can help their community and how, you know, in 2 years when we have another race, they can be candidates. So I'm really here to serve.
Okay. All right. Well, look, I want to talk about your personal and professional background, both. I think those are important for people to know, not just your professional side, but your personal side. So tell us, you know, where you were born, grew up, where did you go to school? Of course, you know, here in Hawaii, everybody asks, where did you go to school? But, you know, where were you born and grew up, and where did you go to school? Tell me those things, a little bit about your personal background and what your early family life was like. Let's go into those questions.
Yes, thank you. And let's get right into it. So it's part of my testimony. So I grew up in El Paso, Texas. My parents are from Mexico, and I grew up in a single parent household. So right away, I was facing challenges. At the time, I thought everyone was going through similar challenges. And I feel like it's really helped me being able to connect with an array of friends and people. So we were homeless growing up. So I did live a little bit in Texas, moved to Mexico with my grandparents for a short period of time. So I got to work the land with my grandfather, ride horses, farm, work off of just the land, really learning what that means. And then about the age of 9, moved to Chicago. And again, this was houseless, so it was challenging, and a single parent household. But with the grace of God, we were able to make it. And to kind of summarize it, because I know we have a lot of questions, first to go to college. I encourage others in my circle, in my family, to reach for higher education, to reach for bigger goals. And I've just been blessed and fortunate to be able to get to where I am right now.
You mentioned a couple things. I mean, you said you were homeless at times, and also single family, and also you talked about the grace of God. Now, I mean, those are things that I want you to tell me. What are those in your personal background? How have they affected and influenced your direction in life?
Well, homeless was for a short period of time, I will say, and learning that process, because when you go into a shelter, we were only there for 2 weeks at a time before we had to make room for someone else. And this was, you know, between the ages of 6 and 9, specifically 6 and 10 actually. But that showed me to care for others. So when people say that they go into these shelters, I envision my experience as a 7-year-old getting a cup of Fruit Loops and a snack bar and a little carton of milk, and that was probably the only meal we had, because they could only provide 1 or 2 a day. It wasn't a feast. So when I hear about these issues here, I right away envision what I've gone through. My faith has really gotten me through a lot of things, right? Because hope and faith are amazing. Like, we need that as human beings. We need connections with others. We need to be able to, you know, when people stress, when people worry, it really hinders them. And I feel like faith and hope are really what can get your mind a little bit clearer, and your perspective a little more polished. But so those 2 things. I'm so sorry. What was the third?
Well, your early family life being with a single parent, and then going to college, being able to go to college after all of that. Wow. I mean, and then how did that affect your, just your direction in life?
Well, single parent, so I was, I am still my mother's caretaker, so I still look after her. And it made things a little bit trickier. You had to balance and find a way to navigate different systems, whether it was the application process for a university, or an application process for my mother's benefits. It was always a learning process, and it changes continuously. So at the time, I just thought everyone was going through the same thing. So there was no complaining. It was just, look at what's ahead of us, in front of us, and just work, make it happen. Work.
Where did you go to college? Where did you end up going to college?
I attended Northern Illinois University. At first, I went for electrical engineering because I excelled in numbers, in math. And I thought, okay, let me just go with what I excel. But at the same time, I've had this calling for helping and healing people. So towards the end of my engineering degree, I decided to try and combine it with a pre-medical degree. So I started studying pharmacology, biology, biochemistry, organic chemistry. I actually got picked up for some research, ocular research, at the university under very wise mentors. So that's where I got to study macular degeneration and cataracts.
So that's quite interesting. You talk about your faith and hope, and they also talk about science. We'll get into that too a little bit later, I think. But let me ask you. Okay, so you it sounds like you had well, let's say an interesting young life, and you went to college first in your family, as I understand. Is that correct? Yeah.
Correct.
And how did you ever get to Hawaii? And I guess your mom is still. Where is she? Is she?
She just moved. Yes, in the mainland. So my brothers joined the military. So given the circumstances, when we moved to Chicago, it wasn't ideal circumstances. It was, 18th Street, which is gang dominated. And my brothers were, my older brother was able to join the military after he realized that he was, it wasn't the best atmosphere. And he wanted something better for us, my younger brother, myself, and my mother. So when he joined the military and he got deployed, in 2001, because he joined right before 9/11, got deployed. After coming back, my brother was stationed in Schofield. So my mother and my brother, moved to Schofield, and I was still in Chicago. I was still pursuing something in, my passion in medicine. So at that time, I was at Children's Memorial Hospital and the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago, RIC. And they would always tell me, you have to come, there's something special, and I would come and visit. But then, and I apologize, I didn't see the opportunities that I saw in Chicago, not just for the study, but to be here after studying. And I can go into detail, doing research on for Dr. Withy at the JAPSOM Medical School here, trying to track and see how many doctors go to school here and how many retained. But I saw that beforehand. So in my mind, I said, okay, well, I have to go and I have to be where I can, where I have the opportunity to excel and do something. Not that you cannot hear, but that's what I strive and I want to be able to help here with. So that's, I was still in Chicago, and actually it's my wife, Judy, that wanted to move to Hawaii. She always had a calling. So her grandfather was here, 30, 40 years ago, and she didn't really get to know him one-on-one because he was here. And when she had the opportunity, I encouraged her, take the leap of faith, move to Hawaii, just do it. So I bought her a ticket, and she had about 4 months before taking that flight. And again, I was still in Chicago, and I was okay with encouraging her to pursue her dream, which was to come here. As I applied for post-baccalaureate and graduate programs, I actually got picked up by HPU. So then I remember calling her and telling her, hey, I'm not gonna come visit you. I actually got picked up by Hawaii Pacific University, and we're gonna be together. So I got to move here, and then 2 years later, we got married. So it's been interesting because I can look back so many times where I didn't understand why things were happening the way they were happening. But now, being in the now, I can connect the dots and say that wasn't my doing. That was God's doing. God provided, and we just stepped out in faith.
Okay, well, now we have a pretty good idea of your personal background, and we're going to take a short break. We'll be back in about a minute, and I want to talk about your professional background, what you do for a living, and go a little deeper. So we'll take a break right now and be back in a minute.
Hi, I'm Rusty Komori, host of Beyond the Lines on ThinkTech Hawaii. I was the head coach for the Punahou boys varsity tennis team for 22 years, and we were fortunate to win 22 consecutive state championships. My show is based on my book, also titled Beyond the Lines, and it's about leadership, creating a superior culture of excellence, and finding greatness. I feature a wide range of amazing guests who share valuable insights about how going beyond the lines leads to success in everything you do in life. I'm looking forward to you joining me every Monday at 11 a.m. Aloha.
Aloha. We are back with Jesus Arriola, Democratic candidate for Hawaii State Senate, District 10. We've been talking about his personal background, quite interesting. How he grew up, and Jesus, you traveled around the United States quite a bit. I mean, really, up and down, and then coming over to Hawaii with your brother, being in the military, and you got to Hawaii kind of you say through faith, really, because you don't know how things worked out this way, but it did. Okay, that's your personal background. Now, what are you doing for a living here in Hawaii? What's that? Your professional background. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, currently I am a partnership specialist for the U.S. Department of Commerce. And what that means is that my role right now is to reach out to the Hispanic and legislative community to create these bridges and create conversation, connect people. It's been actually an amazing opportunity for me to not just learn how to listen to different individuals or different backgrounds, but then to have them connect and communicate with other different people backgrounds. And I share that, which I'm really passionate about that, because I get to share data and then I get to meet people. So nonprofits, organizations, chambers, legislators, and then I get to kind of bring them together in conversation. And specifically, currently, it pertains to census data. So, now that I'm working in this capacity, I see how important the census is. I see how important the data is. I see how important it is to vote and how they're all interconnected. Census, reapportionment, voting, so that's what I currently do.
Okay, and that's for the United States government, is that right? Is that, yeah, okay. Now, you want to be a state senator for District 10. What communities are part of District 10? And where do you live within that district?
There's our district. So I live in Palolo. So I am a member on the neighborhood board here in Palolo, but District 10 encompasses also St. Louis Heights, Maunalani Heights, Kapahulu, Alawai, Moiliili. So we do have a bigger area. And as you can see, it goes kind of from the zoo up to the mountain, along with the Alawai and the golf course. So I'm running because I feel like I have a responsibility. I've been attending not only my neighborhood board, but the neighboring neighborhood boards for the last 2.5 years. So everything that pertains to what's being proposed with the zoo, with Alawai Golf Course, with the Alawai Canal, with I have a whole list because I've just been so curious, and with that, I've been wanting to be able to share so that when people are wondering what's going on in the community, I can share that, or I can point people in the right direction.
Okay, and we've talked a little bit about your personal background. What in your personal history and beliefs, your personal background, what does that bring to the state Senate?
Well, I feel like I have an array of experience. So I part of my professional background, I actually just got done working for the Ways and Means Committee for the Senate. So I just had the opportunity to learn the state budget and actually work on it. So I was assigned certain departments, and we did exercises that we haven't done in the last 20 years because of this pandemic. So we looked into budget journal tables. Just to generalize, exercises and research that we haven't done in 20 years, working closely with the state auditors, working closely with the department and heads. So with that, and that's our team. So that's our chair, Senator Donovan De La Cruz and Keith Angeran. Everyone is trying their best, and everyone in this image, and there's a few missing that were key to our state budget this last year. We're working hard. A lot of these individuals had the opportunity to stay home because the Capitol closed down, but we made a sacrifice to come in and say, we're going to give our time. We're gonna, and our energy and our efforts, because it was long days and a lot of stress, right? Even now, we're still not done with it. As I wake up and we just got done with COVID-19 briefing for the House, right? So Speaker Saiki just spoke with Congressman Case, and probably shouldn't go too into that because our time, but my experience. And before that, I actually got to work under a great, wonderful man, Speaker Emeritus Kelvin Say, and I got to learn about the legislative process as a legislative aide. So again, I feel responsibility, and like Speaker told me, when you learn and you have this information, you have a responsibility. What are you going to do with it? And my response was, well, I'm going to share it. I'm going to share it with other individuals, and I'm going to tell people about it. But then I realized that's not enough. That's not enough right now. So then I made the commitment to run, and while I run, I share with individuals, and I try and educate, and I encourage, because I want more voters. I want more community leaders to step up, and people my age, our age, to really see that they can step up and they can make a difference. And that's what we really need right now.
Okay, now you mentioned earlier that you had a whole list of things with respect to District 10. Mm-hmm. What are the most glaring issues specific to District 10?
Crane Park. I mean, we have a homeless, and even our neighboring districts, right? Diamond Head, that's the biggest one right now. It really worries me, especially, and I guess I can say because of my background, people need the basics. They need clean water, they need food, they need safety, they need a place to call home. And we need to address that. And it is a complex issue, and it is going to take time. But when you look into it, right now, we're not set up for success. We don't have enough programs that are looking at the root of the cause. We don't, the drug rehabs are full of individuals that need help, but they have insurance to help them cover most of those programs. Those that are in need and don't have the resources are at the bottom of the list sometimes, and that doesn't solve what we're up against. Again, this is a complex issue, and I'm not saying that I have all the answers, but what I do say, and I want to share, is that there's data out there, and we can only make decisions based on the data that's available there. So when I see in my experience at the legislature, the research is key for us to get the information and then try and translate that data into what's going on, and then how we can address it is a big thing that I'm trying to serve in.
And your science background that you talked about, and your faith and hope background, how do they mesh in this political system, and how do they work together? Can they work together?
Yes, they need to work together. Science, the more you study and the more you learn, you get to a point where you realize that there's so much more that we do not know or understand. When I started my scientific inquiry background, and we're taught that you have to put faith and beliefs and all these things that don't match or answer the scientific inquiry, right? The scientific train of thought. But then you get to a point where, and I've had these conversations with what I call the wisest, some of the best mentors ever, and they say, we don't know. We realize there's more to it, and there's more that we don't know. And until then, you almost have to, if your mind works a certain way, you have to find a reason or a why, right? But if you look towards faith, or if you incorporate faith that, okay, I don't get it, I don't understand it now, But that doesn't mean that the answer is not there. It's just that my scope, our scope right here, right now, doesn't reach that capacity that we need in order to understand. So that's where my faith brings me peace, because it's that peace that brings me clarity to be able to continue to move forward and not get stuck on a minute detail that I don't agree with or that I don't understand. It just encourages me to encourage others. Let's keep moving forward.
So you kind of combine them both, and where one doesn't serve, the other might take over and help you get through it. Now, I want to ask you a specific question. We got a couple minutes left. I want to ask you, I know that one of the fun things you do is soccer. You're a good soccer player, a decorated soccer player, I hear. And I want to ask you a specific question. You know, now we got Hawaii High School Athletic Association trying to figure out what they're going to do with sports this year.
All right.
What would your answer be? What if you're asked that question, what's your answer?
Great question. You know, I thought about it for the last couple of days, and I was really just kind of hoping that the data would change, right? Because I'm going off of cases, and we can go into details about how accurate but regardless, there's people that are catching this COVID-19, which from a biology background, it's a virus. So it's virus. It has its own definition, its own pathways, its own ways of working. So when it comes to sports, if we see that contact sports right now can put people at risk, then we need to reevaluate our approach, right? So there are options to extracurricular activities, whether it's sports or the arts. And I know that it's hard because it's big. And right now, a lot of people are having to make sacrifices. A direct answer to that is until the data supports that we can have contact sports, until we have that supportive information, then we have to follow what the data is saying. So right now, 200 plus COVID cases today, we're obviously increasing. If we can just look at the data, which is the only thing that we really have to as a ground foundation right now for this approach, then we need to rethink what we want to do and how much of a risk we want to put our players in, because COVID is not picky. It affects everyone. And people, I just want to share with people that we need to take a scientific approach to this and say, okay, what can we do that we know works in order to protect others?
Okay, all right. Now we have one question that came in that I'm going to ask you. Would you or how would you encourage more of your faith to be involved in politics in the Senate if you got elected?
Well, I'm happy to say that I'm doing that without getting in. I'm encouraging everyone. We need a voice in the community. As a minority, I know what that feels like. We need a voice in the community in general. So we need people to vote. And then with voting, we need people to be civically engaged. We have the legislative process is a good process. There's already things set in place. We just need to enforce them. It's not about changing. It's about just going and seeing what's there and reinforcing what's there, because it's a great process. It's democracy. With that, I encourage people of faith to, I already know you're serving somewhere. You're serving a higher being. You're serving your community. But now we have to reach out to the political aspect, which, I know it has such a negative connotation, but it's really about representation. So our legislators are there to represent us. So as constituents, as community members, we need to connect with our legislators and let them know how we feel, because they're a representation of us. They're elected every 2-4 years. So it's time for us to be more engaged.
All right, Jesus, it was very nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. And I know, best wishes, good luck. And we enjoyed having you on our program, and aloha.
Aloha. Thank you, Mark.